Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm here to do a recommendation video for zombie fiction, which apparently is one of my favorite topics because I have covered this not once but twice on my channel before. So I'm going to include those previous videos. I'm going to have them linked in the description box and up in the cards. But if you're looking for even more zombie recommendations, I have them here. I don't have any repeats, but I just really enjoy the genre. It's a lot of fun. They're kind of lighthearted, and hopefully I have some on my list today that you haven't heard of, you haven't read, and hopefully I can convince you that this subgenre is just still a lot of fun. All that being said, let's get started. First, I want to talk about Apocalypse Z, and this is a story of a young man living in Spain with his cat. At the beginning of the story, things start to go wrong. There's possibly something coming from Russia, some kind of disease or outbreak, and soon enough, there are zombies in his city and he needs to get out. He ends up running out to get to safety, looking for an oasis. Along the way, he meets possible friends and other people that maybe aren't so nice, and he is just trying to survive. It is the beginning of a series, but you can read the first book as a pretty decent standalone and you won't be left hanging. Compared to some of the other books on the list, I will admit this one is a little bit predictable. It does kind of follow the tropes and cliches of the zombie fiction genre, but in a few ways I found this book to be refreshing. One is the fact that it is translated, so the original book was written in Spanish, where the book of course takes place in Spain. So I like the fact that it's not centered around the US, because I've read way too many books that are basically just one zombie apocalypse road trip through America, and I'm always looking for something different. Also, for those of you that are cat lovers like myself, I think you'll really enjoy the back and forth between the man and his cat, because do not worry, the cat is at the center of the story and is not going to be in any danger, or at least more danger than you would expect. So it's definitely a cat-friendly book and one that you'll probably really enjoy. So that sounds fun. I definitely recommend checking it out. The audiobook is narrated by Nick Podell, one of my favorite narrators, so if you're into audiobooks, I'd recommend trying it that way. Next is The Emperor's Railroad by Guy Haley, and this is actually a fantasy novella that is set in a secondary world, and we have the story told from the perspective of a young boy who is trying to escape this horde of zombies along with his family, and they come across this man who carries a sword and protects them against the zombies. And I want to recommend this one to those that are really tired of those classic zombie books, because this one is just different, because again it has that fantastical element. The man carries a sword and is more of a knight, and he's definitely a very classic zombie killer in the idea that he is just cutting them down, he is cool, but again it's kind of different because he's a knight, he's not a police officer. And so if you like those tropes but you want to see them kind of spun in a different direction, this one is great. This is a novella, so it's quite short, and I just think it was a lot of fun, so I definitely want to recommend it. I feel like it's a little bit more underhyped than perhaps some of the other books I'm going to talk about here. Next, I want to talk about Mother Russia by Jeff McComsey, and this is a graphic novel set in the middle of a zombie uprising in Russia, where there is this amazing shooter who is a sniper, and she is cutting down the zombies when she sees a young child among them, and of course goes to rescue the young child. The graphic novel is honestly very simple and predictable, but if you're just looking for every single zombie book you can possibly read, this is one you might want to check out for yourself. Not a personal favorite, but it's a zombie book. And speaking of graphic novels, I also want to recommend Revival by Tim Seeley. And this is a story set in a small town where the dead begin to rise. But this one is different because while yes, it deals with the undead, they really aren't coming back as zombies. So instead, the recently deceased are just starting to wake up again, and this one is almost more of a mystery. The story is primarily told from the law enforcement's perspective, where they are trying to piece together what is happening, and are these people just coming back to life for a while? Are they going to stay awake? Are they going to change? Are they still themselves? Do they have their soul? And it's an intriguing start. Admittedly, I've read the first volume and haven't actually continued on with the series. I probably should, because I really liked it, and then I just didn't finish. Does anyone someone else do that. But if that sounds good, again, if you're looking for an undead story where it's not just moaning undead crawling around, but instead people coming back to life and actually appearing to be themselves, then perhaps this one will sound up your alley. Next, I want to briefly talk about Cell by Stephen King, which is set in a near future where all the cell phones cause some kind of frequency that basically turns people into these zombie-like beings. Now, these are not technically zombies because they are not undead. They are still living beings, as the characters will point out in the book. However, they basically behave like zombies, so I do consider this to be Stephen King's take on zombie fiction. However, I do need to give a big disclaimer here that while I'm including it in my recommendations video, I'm including it because a lot of people love Stephen King's work and just want to read everything that he has written. So if you are one of those people, you may want to check this one out. However, I did not enjoy this book. I actually really disliked it, especially the ending. So go into this book at your own free will. If you want a zombie book written by Stephen King, this is it, but I did not enjoy it, so keep that all in mind. From there, I also want to briefly mention Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead, which is a piece of literary fiction that involves a young man who is in New York at the beginning of a zombie apocalypse. And this is another book that I honestly did not like but want to include on this list because yes, it's about zombies. I appreciate this book. It actually had a really strong start and I did like the author's writing. However, I found this book to be very preachy because in the middle of this apocalypse, the author almost becomes another character in the story, going on about capitalism in America, and it just got a little bit heavy-handed. It's not even like I disagreed with what the author was saying, but it just really took away from the narrative. This book does have pretty low ratings on Goodreads, and it's kind of for a reason. But if you're like me, if you just have to try it for yourself, go ahead, give it a try. Maybe it'll work better for you. I love the concept. The execution, unfortunately, fell pretty flat for me. Now, switching over to a book I did enjoy, I want to talk about Psalm 100, which is a horror manga that centers around a young man who has just gotten his first real job living in Japan. And this job, unfortunately, falls into the very classic stereotype of the workaholic culture of the nation. And so he spends 3 years of his life giving everything to a job without anything in return. And so when a zombie apocalypse breaks out, he decides that this is the perfect time to create a bucket list and go around and basically fulfill all of the things he never got to do while he was working at this dead-end job. So this is a very comical take on a zombie apocalypse where yes, there are zombies on the loose, but the main character is actually really happy about it because all he sees is freedom from his terrible job. So it's really more a story commenting on current job and work culture in Japan. If you're familiar with it, it is known to be very difficult. And so this is just a really fun story that takes the idea of zombies and uses it to talk about something else. And I thought it was great. Definitely for adults. There's lots of fan servicey moments with a lot of female nudity, but I really enjoyed the story. It was a lot of fun. And again, something very different when it comes to zombies. Finally, we've come to the end and I want to recommend Zombie CSU by Jonathan Mayberry. And this is a piece of nonfiction that is all centered around the idea of zombies. So this is partially a look at the pop culture phenomenon of zombies, and it also kind of looks at the science and legalities behind it. So if there was a zombie uprising, how would police respond? What would be the legal implications of killing zombies? And those sorts of ideas. So it takes a fictional idea and tries to puzzle it through a real life logic. Now, this is a book I would recommend to people that are obsessed with zombie fiction and are looking to kind of delve into it. This is a book that is definitely for zombie lovers. And I do want to mention that it was written in the middle or hype of zombies, kind of back when The Walking Dead was the most popular thing on TV, all of that. So it does feel a little bit dated now because I would argue that zombie fiction is far less popular today and a lot of people are really tired of it. I'm trying to bring it back. I'm working on it. But definitely you do notice that in the writing that the author is constantly saying how everyone loves zombies, and I would kind of disagree at this point. But again, if that sounds fun, if you're looking for a really lighthearted nonfiction take on this topic, I think that this is a perfect way to round out your zombie zombie reading. So that is it. You've made it to the end of the video. Let me know down below of the books I talked about, which ones are you planning on checking out for yourself, and let me know what is your favorite zombie book. And if you haven't already, remember to check out my previous videos, which will be linked in the cards and description box. If you're new to my channel, I do read a lot of zombie fiction as well as other subgenres of horror and thrillers, science fiction, and fantasy. You can help me out by sharing this video around online with all of your undead friends. You can give this video a thumbs up, and if you hit the little notification bell, it'll make sure that you never miss a video from me. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.